And welcome to From the Be All End, the Burnley podcast. This is the debrief for West Ham United 3, Burnley 2. I'm Andrew Greaves. With me tonight, Chris Boden, and very special guest, Martin Barnes, former editor of the When the Ball Moves fanzine. Probably a very familiar face and probably a very familiar voice to a lot of Burnley fans who perhaps heard his calls for people to buy the fanzine. No Darren Bentley tonight. We've locked him in a cupboard watching Florentino YouTube clips as punishment for upsetting so many of you across the various message boards. We will talk about Florentino tonight. We will talk about Florentino because I think it is worthy of a wider discussion. But Martin, let's start with you. 24 hours after we've come away from the London Stadium with a 3-2 defeat, I'm still at a bit of a loss as to how we managed to snatch defeat from the jaws of at least a point and probably all three. Have you got your head around it?
Yeah, it's a weird one, isn't it? Because I think basically we've switched off at three key moments and it's ended up costing us 3 goals. And unfortunately, Dubravka's had a couple of, marish moments, hasn't he? He spilled the ball into the area. Kind of Lee Grant-esque, if you like. And I think that's ultimately cost us because I think we were in control of the game. I thought we looked like the better team. I mean, West Ham don't look very good, do they? So I suppose it's ultimately a very frustrating afternoon that you think, yeah, we should have come away with something there. And hopefully the players look back at it and learn from it.
Yeah, I mean, Dubravka, Chris, pretty much faultless up until this point. Man of the match several times over this season. But goalkeepers can sometimes have off days, can't they? And he picked possibly the worst day to have an off day, didn't he? The big stopper.
Not precisely. Yes, he's barely put a foot wrong, hasn't he? One of the performers of the season so far. And actually, I didn't see a West Ham goal coming at all. Although, we didn't look like creating much in that second half, but as we had done in the first half, we controlled the game. Taking any sort of semblance of threat out of West Ham, and it was just a case of could we piece something together. But when I say nobody goes out to press Paqueta, do they? But Dubravka's got to do better there than just palm it out to Souček and. Florentino, he said, I think otherwise he's had a good game, but he's allowed Souček to get the other side of him, and he's the one who sort of puts it in a la Brian Robson with his chest stroke crotch area as he used to do. But and again for the third, it's just really it's like a tame pot shot, isn't it? That he's just made a pig's ear of, and Walker Peters gets the easiest goal he'll ever score. But we can't say anything. He's been absolutely terrific otherwise, and he's old enough in the tooth to be, to just put that behind him. Whether he wants to go away with his country or just get straight back to Premier League action, it's remains to be seen. But he'll be fine. He'll just notch that up to experience and crack on.
Yeah, and Martin, I mean, Scott Parker probably as animated or as annoyed, frustrated, call it what you will, in the most of the kind of post-match interviews. He spoke a lot about kind of being weak and as not learning and kind of key moments that he's been kind of talking about time and again were not, he seemed visibly really miffed that, we're 11 games into the season and we're still switching off, we're still having the lapse in concentration. He's not that kind of manager to get overly emotional, is he? Is that kind of, do you think it's what the team needed, that kind of, look, we have had lapse in concentration, Man United away, Liverpool at home, giving away last-minute penalties through lapse in concentration. Do you think up until this point he's been a bit, not too nice with them, but actually sometimes a bit of a kick up the arse is what players need to realise what's
I agree.
at stake?
I mean, last season, him and Farke were very, very calm, very, very measured compared to Wilder at Sheffield United. So I think that he's been like that all last season, and he has been quite calm outwardly in the interviews. Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think there comes a point where you just have to go, right, enough is enough. And it is individual errors like we're talking about. We're talking about Dubravka, we're talking about Florentino, we're talking about one of the centre halves just switching off. And that's all it takes at this level, and he's got to get that message across. And I'm sure that, given we've got another of these ridiculous international breaks, we're going to have another weekend off. Might not be coming at a bad time for us. You know, West Ham, on the other hand, might have been thinking, oh, we've got 2 wins, but then they've got another week, and potentially that breaks it up for them. So, yeah, I think it's exactly what they need. It's not exactly, he's not come out and said, we are absolutely diabolical, has he? He's not ripped into them. He's just told them a few home truths where, at this level, you've got to be switched on for 90 minutes. Otherwise, what happened yesterday happens. 3 goals from not many more than 3 or 4 chances.
Yeah. And Chris, I mean, we kind of touched on it in the rapid reaction about Parker's substitutions. They look to be 1 or 2 slightly strange decisions. I mean, Ugo Chukwu, we know, generally comes off around the 70-minute mark, but didn't look like he needed to yesterday. Hartman, probably one of his better performers, along with Big Les on the day. I mean, Parker kind of explained it away as, look, we were trying to affect it, we were trying to inject a bit of something into it. Did you, as they were happening, I was a bit like, I'm not quite sure I understand these substitutions. Anthony staying on as long as he did, Breuer coming on rather than Foster. Did that kind of puzzle and worry you a little as the game was unfolding?
Yes. The one that sort of annoyed me most was Brun Larsen for Chowner. Because all of a sudden we become so pedestrian on that right-hand side. I mean, Chowner, I didn't think in particular one of his better games. Did a couple of nice moments. He's obviously involved in the opening goal. But as soon as you put Brun Larsen on for me, that sort of says it's a signifier of, do you know what, we're quite happy here to take a point. And I think every Burnley fan watching, everyone in the ground is thinking, this West Ham side are absolutely ripe for the taking here. They are so ordinary, it's beyond belief. And that suggesting a backward step. And I say, I'm not sure, but nobody knows about the fitness. Ugo Chukwu, Hartman, we don't know if they're carrying a little niggle or whatever, and it was just getting fresh legs on. But again, their subs came on and affected the game, didn't they? Souček's come on and scored and had a hand in the third, and Walker Peters gets one. And hours without not performing badly, he just had the reverse effect, really. But Anthony, I think anyone who listens to the podcast on a regular basis knows I'm as big a supporter of Anthony as there is. But even I start to think now he's really struggling. He looks like a spell out of the side would do him a world of good, really, to actually sort of have a look at the picture from the sidelines, get his confidence back. Everything was easy option for me. He's getting it, he gives it simple. Get it, give it simple. There's no sort of the bravery where he gets us up the pitch and just drives at teams. Whether there's an end product or not, he often gets us up the pitch at vital moments. And, it might win you a free kick or a throwing high up the pitch or whatever, but we're not seeing that either. He is diligent and he works hard, but that's a prerequisite. He can get someone off Townley to work hard off the ball. We want a bit of quality. And to me, that sort of taking him out of the equation might even solve the Hannibal conundrum, where we can get Hannibal, who's begun to sort of affect games as a sub, get him on that sort of leftish, inside left position where he did well in the Championship in the promotion season. Probably thickens up your midfield, gives you a bit more steel in that midfield area as well, and he can create as he showed at Wolves. Either that, or just play faster there and get us up the pitch and have us a bit more pace, a bit more aggression. Because as much as I admire Anthony, he's not he's not the aggressive.
He's not an aggressive
type.
player, is he? No. Marty, do you think Anthony's form has dipped since he's not been playing with Lau Foster. I mean, I'm not, I think Flemming's been fantastic since he come in. I'm not suggesting that we, switch Flemming out to bring Foster in just so Anthony performs. But that drive, that kind of getting us up the pitch, it does seem to go down that left-hand side with Foster. Them two work so well in tandem together. Do you think that kind of part of his form being off is that he's having to learn to play with Flemming, which is a slightly different proposition? Or, as somebody suggested on the podcast kind of earlier in the week, I think it was, he just looks a bit knackered, doesn't he? He just looks like, as Chris says, he perhaps just needs a spell out the side to regroup, regather himself.
Yeah, it's a difficult one, isn't it? Because, like you say, he does look tired, but you think the number of games that we've had shouldn't be the case. I think it could be a combination, a little bit of teams have sussed us out a little bit, because in the first few games, obviously they're waiting to see what we're about and where our dangers are coming from. And he's had a great start to the season. A lot of people will have got him in the last man standing teams for things like that, because he is affecting games. He's giving assists, he's scoring. Don't forget, of course, he's been sort of here with Bournemouth as well, hasn't he, before, and didn't quite do it. So I suppose self-confidence could be quite brittle a little bit. And if he starts having a little bit of a dip in form, you might think, oh, here we go again. It is difficult, isn't it? Because it could be that the striker up front there could be the problem, that he's not quite getting the same kind of relationship with him. And I hear what Chris is saying about we've got the potential now to be Hannibal, but this international break, again, might be another chance to reset, maybe get him a little bit of a reset, and Parker can sort of sit down with him and say, look, this is what was going well at the start of the season. This is what we want to see from you. I don't know. It is a strange one. It is a strange one. I don't know is the quick answer, really.
Yeah. Chris, just throwing another one in. And you talked a lot last season about kind of Marcus Edwards. When he came in, we know the impact he had in terms of the amount of goals we scored and the creativity. And even when he wasn't directly involved in goals, he was kind of freeing up Anthony a little bit, perhaps in a way that Chauner doesn't, because Chauner's a bit of a he's quite direct, isn't he? He's not tricky, he's kind of quite direct. We're starting to see Marcus Edwards come in the side. I mean, Parker spoke on Thursday in his press conference about how upset he is that Edwards hasn't got as many minutes, and I'm thinking, well, you're the boss. It's up to you whether you give him minutes or not. But do you think kind of bringing someone like Edwards into the side, and we know he's got quality, and again, I think he looked, he looked like he wanted the ball when he came on. Does that perhaps unlock the Anthony conundrum on that left-hand side a little bit?
It unlocks the creativity problem, because he's a little magician. And the only thing is, like I say, Parker's just seems so averse to using a wide player on the other side who hasn't, shall we say, isn't as diligent against the ball, or isn't as.
Do you need Edwards to be diligent? Sorry to cut across you. If you've got someone like Walker who can pretty much hit one corner flag and the next, and he's kind of diligent enough and fast enough and strong enough for two players, is there a possibility there that you say to Edwards, look, we do want you tracking back, we do want you getting behind the ball, we do want you putting a foot in, but actually just look behind you, you've got, can a Florentino come out to the right? I don't know, I'm just trying to unlock something, aren't we?
But that said, the manager's so averse to that. As I say, his tendency has been to use Brun Larson, because he's a bit of he's an in-betweener, isn't he? So, he will work against the ball, but, he might give you a bit going forward as well. But if we need to, you need to score goals. If you're not going to score goals, we've had the fewest shots in the Premier League. And but I mean, we are scoring goals, to be fair. We 3 at Wolves. We got a couple yesterday in a defeat. But it's that bit of stardust, isn't it? He's a super little player who can, beat players with a give and go as much as like dribbling through players. He's just got something that no one else in the squad has. And I was pleased to hear Parker suggest that he was disappointed he's not been able to fit him in, because I think the murmurings around was that he seems to carry this stereotype of he's quite problematic. He's an attitude. I don't know. I've never met Marcus Edwards. I don't know, but It seems to be hugely unfair, but I mean, there's going to come a time. I said we're entering a batch of games now where Chelsea aside, playing teams that are not elite, shall we say, teams that we can go after and get something from. And I just, we need to create more than we are doing. We've been very clinical with what we've had so far. So I'd have him in the side all day long. But
I think it ultimately comes down
Martin?
to Parker, doesn't it? Like we said, we know he's a bit of a risk-averse manager. You just hit the nail on the head, though, Greaves. He can get Cullen, he can get Florentino to go out there. Do you need both your wingers to work all the way back when you're playing with two fairly defensive midfielders? I think there's definitely an argument that says you don't have to. We all know he's one of our, if not the most creative player. Give him a bit more license to stay up there and say to Cullen or Florentino, right, you when he goes, you cover. I think we know we're not creating a lot of chances. We did well to score 2 goals yesterday because for all the possession that we had, we didn't really carve them open very often. We had a couple more chances. That was about it. So we do need to create more. And I think he'll have to get to the point where he realizes we need points. Getting a point a game will get us there, but if we're not careful, like I said, this next run of games, Chelsea apart, we need to be getting points from those games, and if we don't, you're suddenly looking at getting cut adrift a little bit potentially, and then it's hard, as we've seen before, to get back. And I'm not saying we go full gung-ho and full Vincent Kompany where we just pick 11 players and throw them up in the air and see where they land. It's not about that, is it? It's just about taking the handbrake off, as we said before, and just giving it an extra sort of 5% freedom to go for it up front a little bit more.
Yeah, definitely. And just looking at that kind of run of games that we've got coming up, Martin. I mean, John Robertson has posted on Twitter 8 games left until the halfway point. It's fair to say that in that period we'll come up against the mid-table pack. Like you said, Chelsea aside, we literally play everyone who is currently 9th to 15th. So Bournemouth, Crystal Palace, Brighton, Brentford, Everton, Newcastle, and Fulham. Obviously, a mix of home and away games there. It does give us a chance, doesn't it? I mean, if you look at the kind of fixtures that West Ham have got coming up, I think they probably play the other 8 teams, if you will. I mean, it seems like an horrendous run. They travel to Bournemouth, I think, straight after the international break. But it's kind of, we've had a tough start to the season, haven't we? It's not been the easiest start. We're sat there on 10 points from 11 games, not quite a point a game. Are you happy with where we're at this stage, albeit kind of thinking we probably could have secured more points had we not been kind of, perhaps a little bit daft in the last minute of the games against Man United?
Yeah, I mean, it's always easy to say that, though, isn't it? I mean, if you look at the games that have been discussed before, the Sunderlands and the Leeds games and the Wolves games could have gone differently as well. We could have been looking at 3 points from those instead of 9. So to give a bit of balance, I think we're about where we should be based on the performances that we've given. Yes, we were unlucky to drop points out of those games. I'm happy. I'm a lot happier. It's not so much of a head scratcher as it was last time, is it? We're thinking, right, we're in most games. We are doing okay. I think these next eight games are huge, though, aren't they? Because it'll give us much more of an idea of where we really are. I think after these 8 games, we will know. I mean, literally, we'll know from our points, but also just on performances and how we go against these sorts of teams. And none of these games are going to be easy. Let's not kid ourselves. Your Brentford's just gone and beaten Newcastle. All of these teams are capable of being very good on the day, but also your Evertons are capable of playing fairly badly. So if we can match them and get a few of these victories in here, yeah, you never know. We might suddenly be up towards your top teams, your 20 points, and you think, well, we've half a chance here, and that's kind of what you want going into the January transfer window. You want to be there or thereabouts, giving yourself a decent go at it, and then who knows what can happen. We know it's going to be difficult. We knew that at the start, but I'm fine with where we are, to be honest. Yeah, I mean, I'd love to be Sunderland. Don't get me wrong, but Leeds are down with us. It's not a surprise, is it? It's not a surprise. It's the most difficult league in the world to break into and do well in. So I think we're doing all right. I'll be interested to see what the next 8 games bring.
Yeah. And Chris, I mean, Justin always said during that VK Premier League season, we'll be better in the second half. And we were, to be fair. I mean, as Martin says, kind of, we get these 8 games out of the way. We're at the halfway stage. We've played everybody once. You kind of expect teams that are down amongst us, your Fulhams, your Leeds, possibly even your Newcastles with the kind of pressures of the Champions League and that kind of, vastly expanded format that they're having to deal with. Everton's, you'd expect them to still be there or thereabouts around Christmas, wouldn't you? I mean, it's a weird Premier League season, isn't it, with teams taking points off each other. Villa started badly up to 6, beat Bournemouth today. Brentford, as you said, Martin beating Newcastle. Eddie having a bit of a mare over the last couple of days. Sean Dyche going into Forest and getting a good result against Leeds, albeit helped along the way with a bit of VAR. It's probably the most open relegation battle and probably to a degree the most open top 4 battle that we've seen in a good couple of years, isn't it, in the Premier League?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, there seems to be this debate over the quality of football, and how much time balls in play and long throws and this, that, and the other. But what do we want? Do we want like an absolutely magnificent side to run away with it and the bottom 3 to be marooned come Christmas, or do you want everything up for grabs, sort of thing? That's what makes our game exciting. But and come, hey lads, hey, when every game will mean something at some stage, hopefully, and that's when the excitement comes and the drama comes at that stage of the season. Not bothered about glorious eras of technical football. We want exciting football where everyone's competitive and you don't know who's going to land in what position at the end of the day. I've always looked at, Everton, as Martin said, they're inconsistent. They're an injury in key positions away from being a very, very ordinary side. Imagine if they lose a Grealish or a Tarkovsky or something like. I mean, albeit I believe Tarky's not having the best of seasons there, but and Michael Keane is. Fulham, I think they've got some very good players, but are they a team that get dragged down with the dead men? Are they the sort of characters that are going to drag them out? Is Alex Iwobi going to roll his sleeves up and Harry Wilson and they're exceptional footballers, but they're not. Do you want them in the trenches with you? Sort of thing. I think they could be in the mire. West Ham are rotten, Wolves are rotten, and I don't think Leeds are particularly good either. But there's hope there that we have a good structure, good honest professionals, a good honest manager. And it's just if you're playing Man United and Liverpool and you've been under stress, you've been pressured for 90 minutes, and you can understand slips in concentration at the death because you've been absolutely tuned in, focused in. If you're playing West Ham, slips in concentration. That's probably why Scott Parker's gone a bit off script after the game. They're not a good side, and we've basically handed them 3 points on a plate. But I think we're in there battling, aren't we?
Yeah, I'd agree. Let's get on to Florentino briefly, just because it's good for ratings, and it means that we could just call Daz Bentley wrong, basically. But there we go. Martin, I mean, Darren's kind of doubled down on this a couple of times. I think the kind of bring Laurent into the side, I think is a little bit extreme. His stats again against West Ham were very good. But stats don't tell the full story. Is it easy to hide behind? He completed 93% of his passes, but if he's, 100% of his passes are sideways passes inside his own defensive third with no pressure, I'd look a good footballer on paper.
I'm not sure I'd go that far, Greaves. I'm not sure I'd go that far.
Well, no, maybe not. But you know what I mean? It's not just about stats, and we seem to be so obsessed with. Bloody hell, he's made 14 out of 15 tackles. How many tackles couldn't he get to because he's given the ball? You know what I mean? I'm not suggesting that Daz is right on this, but it's a discussion point. You have to watch a full game of football and see the impact. I saw somebody suggest either on YouTube or one of the message boards that he's not been brought in to make an impact. And it's a bit like, well, what's the point in him then if he's not impacting, or is he making an impact but in a different way?
Yeah, I think for me, I can see why he's got him in, because Cullen's the metronome. We've called him that many times. He's the guy who gets the ball, spreads it around, He's probably, his strong point is probably not winning the ball back. So I think he's put Florentino in alongside him to do what we might call the dirty work, to do the breaking up. Yeah, I'm sure Darren's got a point. I'm sure there's things that he would probably want him to be better at. But at the end of the day, we've got to remember, he is a very good footballer, but he's playing for us. He's not playing for one of the top 6 teams. He's not going to be a completely finished player, is he? And if he was absolutely brilliant at everything, Benfica would not let him go for the amount of money they let him go for. So I think we've got to be realistic when we sign players. It's very easy to get carried away with the hype, potentially. I thought he played okay again yesterday. He broke it up a little bit. He did lose his player, though. So, again, the jury's a little bit out on him, isn't he? But I think him and Cullen certainly have got attributes to their game that do complement one another. And I think a bit like centre-halves, you don't necessarily want players who are exactly good at the same thing. You want them to have strengths that are going to maybe compensate for the partner. I think from what I've seen of him and Cullen do that to a larger extent.
Yeah, and Chris, I mean, I think Daz made his point, and I think he it's all about opinions. I remember Owen Coyle once telling me that opinions were like arseholes, we all have one. And he didn't agree with mine on several occasions around Graham Alexander, very similar position. But, I mean, is Martin right in that, actually, you know what I mean? We're getting the best out of Cullen in the Premier League this time because he's got somebody else doing the grunt work.
The best out of him because he's a good footballer. I just sort of he's had a bit of a sniff at it 2 years ago in a side that gave him no protection whatsoever, and now he's playing alongside a far better system and framework. And I think Florentino he helps, but Cullen's a damn good footballer as well. But actually, I remember having these conversations with Daz 20 odd years ago about Ibrahimovic. It's like I was raving about him and he wasn't having him. It's just, like I say, it's just opinion, isn't it? But Florentino, for my part, he, like I say, he breaks things up. Time and again, you'll just, this leg will come out and just, he anticipates, he reads it well and gives it simple to, like I said, to a Cullen type who can distribute. I've absolutely no concerns about that midfield unit. Uga Chukwu can, again, drive forward, get us up the pitch. The pair of him and Florentino are really good under pressure on the ball. We can look after it when we're, when teams are hunting us down, which we've never been able to do previously. And I have no issue at all. He just, I mean, if he had a silky side to him, my word, he'd be some player, wouldn't he? But as I say, it's just we knew what we were getting. Our journalist friend in Portugal who was just sort of saying, yeah, get it, give it, get it, give it. But he's very effective at that.
Definitely. We'll leave it there then for this episode. I'm not sure we've come to a conclusion whether Daz is right or wrong, but we'll let you, the listener, decide and still give him. He's completely wrong, Chris. There you go. And Martin almost agreeing with him. It's a good job you're not standing on the corner at Turf Moor selling fanzines, because people will be throwing cups of beer or worse at you for daring to agree with Daz. But it is a game of opinions, of course. That's why we love it so much. And, I'm sure there's other players we can pick out. And, you only have to read message board player ratings to kind of work out that, there's lots of people see things in lots of different ways, which is what makes this sport such a brilliant sport. We have got an international break. We have got a couple of specials that we're recording this week, which we'll reveal on social media. But I believe one of them we're speaking to photographer Clive Lawrence. Many of you will have seen for many, many, many years Clive's work in the Lancashire Telegraph. He's just done a new fanzine booklet with Lower Block, who are well worth checking out. So we've got Clive having a chat with us about his work. The Lower Block fanzine is called Protest to Promotion, and it's a kind of pictorial history of Burnley Football Club from 1988 to that 4th Division Championship win in 1992. to. And if you've not checked it out, do check it out. Low Block all over social media. And then we've got another chat which we're just confirming with somebody from inside the club, somebody who's doing a lot of work with the first team as well. So again, hopefully that'll give us a bit of an interesting insight. It's kind of off the pitch stuff, but will give us a bit of an interesting insight as well. So plenty to come over the international break when we're bored of England sticking 3 or 4 past some minnows from somewhere out east, or whoever they play. I don't even know who they're playing, but there we go. But we will be back with the normal pod ahead of the Chelsea game. So until then, enjoy your week, enjoy your weekend, enjoy your week off next week, and up the Clarets.